time with the Stratford Regional Planning Commission, the guest here, and we'll talk about the master plan.
Cool.
Okay, welcome to the Newmarket Energy and Environment Advisory Committee meeting of August 28th, 2024. We do not have a quorum. President is me, Joe Lamattina, and new member Scott McGrath. And we have two guests, Lindsay Butler, town engineer, and, I'm sorry,
Carrie Deers.
Carrie?
Carrie Deers.
From Stratford Regional Planning. Again, as I said, we do not have a quorum, so we can't have an official meeting, but we will record this meeting and get the notes out to the other members, and we will make sure that for our next meeting, there's plenty of notification for the committee, and make sure that, crack a whip, make sure we get people here. Public comment, seeing no members of the public, we will open and close public comment at 7:04. So, just a quick introduction for a new member. We do have a new member, hasn't been officially approved by the town council, but that's on the council's agenda for next week, Scott McGrath. And Scott comes to us, he's got a background in recycling, which is one of the things that we're going to hit next. Oh, here comes Ellen. So, would you like to just talk a little bit about your background and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm moved here from Cambridge, Massachusetts this past weekend, and I was on a recycling advisory committee in Cambridge for the past three and a half years. Admittedly, not super experienced in the recycling arena, except for the exposure I was granted through that committee. A large focus of which was actually curbside and residential composting programs. But they rolled out like various bins for, or like a new bin program that helped to try and encourage people to reduce waste. It sounds like the Newmarket program seems like it already has a step ahead on that. But
when we get to that section, I want to show you something, and I think you'll be a very valuable member in helping us do that.
Cool. Yeah. But yeah, my former background was in finance, investment management, but then I got an MBA focused on energy and environmental sustainability, and transitioned my career to renewable energy product development, which is where I work now. So a big focus and interest in that arena and just environmental conservation. I like to be involved, so to the extent I can help the committee in Newmarket, and also learn from the committee, excited to be a part of it.
Okay, excellent. So this is Scott McGrath.
Hi, Scott.
Ellen Reed. Ellen is the committee chair.
Sorry for being late. Apologies.
We really just started.
Looks like we're not going to have a quorum anyway.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I did say that we would take notes and get that out to the committee.
And we definitely want to hear the updates.
Okay.
So is this Rebecca? No?
No, this is Carrie.
Carrie.
From
Oh,
SRPC.
apologies.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So the Rebecca, the new member, isn't here either?
yeah, Rebecca is a new member. She's not here. Scott just
I guess
introduced
Summer
himself.
is still with us.
Yes, it is. I tell you what, do you mind if we skip around in the
We can,
agenda?
yeah,
and
why you wanna do.
Dive right into
The update, yeah, so we can let Lindsay go as soon as possible.
No.
Hi, Julie.
Julie.
You didn't miss anything except for our new prospective member, Scott McGrath. So,
yeah, we can, this is Carrie Deers. She is from SRPC, and she is, you're kind of project manager for the whole master plan update, so she's been working closely with Bart and all of the master plan update team and the committees. So she came in today to give a brief update on the process status survey that's live now, some results of that, and we'd like to talk about some prospective activities for the upcoming workshop on September 14th. Something that could be related to energy if there's some specific information or like polling that we'd like to do to try to get an interactive response that's beyond the limited survey questions that we had, because that was, as we discussed, pretty basic and straightforward, but we could get a little bit more in depth with the workshop. So, we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Do you want me
Yeah.
to hand out the stuff? that-
Sure, yeah, I just kind of separated them into packets, yeah.
Pass them out.
So yes, thanks Lindsay. As Lindsay said, I've been working with Bart. I took over as project manager in March from Angie Cleveland, and then worked primarily on the housing chapter that just finished up. So, and then I am also taking over the energy chapter that Autumn was working with you guys on. So, status update of the master plan is that the housing chapter and the open space chapters, the final drafts are written. We'll have a website up and running before the forum on the 14th, so those will be posted on that website, as well as all of the other information, the survey, and then outreach and any other information that we want. But each chapter will have its own page on the website. And overall, the master plan committee selected that first sheet, master plan themes. And I thought it was really interesting when I was looking at the draft energy chapter that you guys had done and suggested that the committee adopt some overarching like vision statements. So and I was kind of comparing, and I think the statements that they ended up adopting are they're very in line with those visioning statements that you had in your draft
I can
energy
see us
chapter.
fitting into resiliency, for example.
Yeah. So I thought that fit really well. So these 5 themes are going to be present in each of the chapters, however it fits. So like housing, it worked out really well to have each section. We just kind of went through and discussed, what is a vibrant housing community, what does housing look like that's connected and accessible and affordable. So each chapter will kind of take its own flavor based on these themes. So that's one step that has happened. And then we recently, and hopefully you've taken the survey. If you haven't taken the survey, please do. The link is, I think, is the link? I know it'll be in the town newsletter on Friday.
Yeah, and I think it is on the town
On the
homepage.
website,
Yep,
yeah.
website.
And so I just pulled out, this is just a sampling of the responses as of yesterday. And I just pulled out the kind of ones that were more energy, environment, public works, community facilities, just to give you a brief summary of where people are falling on some of the questions. And so one of the questions we asked, there's a huge survey if you haven't taken it, and we had a limited amount that we could have for each subject. So these were the ones that were for energy and community facilities. And so question 4, I think it's really interesting to look at the percentages of, what people are thinking about supporting different community needs.
I don't wish to skip whatever, but
Yeah.
I'm just on pages 12 and 13.
Yeah,
And if you add somewhat interested to extremely interested together, it's something like 60 to 70% of the town is
Yeah.
interested in green energy and efficiency programs.
yeah, exactly.
So we have really important work.
I know.
By the way, thank you so much for going through the 17 or whatever pages we produced and trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, so we whittled it down to 2.
Nice.
The top 2 questions. So, and I do think that's a really good observation, is that people are interested in, whether it's somewhat or extremely, they're interested in it. And so one of the things that we're doing at the September 14th workshop is to kind of delve a little deeper. So each subject will have its own station. So you have the opportunity to ask some more questions. So one of the ideas that we had, and that's on the sheet that I handed out, we're combining this with the community facilities. So community facilities is gonna have a map of town that'll have an exercise where people can identify where they see flooding and where they're concerned about pollution, and then just any other town infrastructure. And then at that station, we can do anything else you want. But we thought we have the ability to do like a mini poll for people on their phones. So, when they come up, they can scan a QR code and then take a little mini survey. And since this was one of the questions that you guys sent to be on the survey, we pulled this one just as a quick, what do you think the committee should focus on? But we can certainly do anything else if you guys want to ask about anything else.
And we can
Either in
certainly-
addition to this, or,
We can revise this too.
Oh, yeah.
This question was included in the draft that we discussed back in, what are we,
April?
April, I think, April or May.
Yeah.
So this was what we kind of included as a poll because it didn't fit with the structure of the online survey, but could be more interactive and have some discussion points. But this, we could also make adjustments to this if there's a better way to get at some more useful information or something that the committee wants to delve a little deeper into.
So, can I say, let's see, where do I start here? One of the things I was hoping that the master plan would do, there was two things that resolutions that we've done. We did a resolution where we said by 2030, we want the town facilities to be more or less energy sufficient, or, using clean energy. And we were shooting for the town by 2050.
Electricity for the whole town by 2030 and for heating fuels and transportation fuels by 2050.
So, is the master plan kind of like looking at that? And another thing I was kind of hoping the master plan would do was, where do we stand with energy consumption now? Going out and getting some actual statistics. Where do we stand with energy consumption now and where we want to be? How do we get there? Is that going to be in the master plan?
Thank you for both of those. I concur with those sentiments.
Yes, to address the second piece of it, where we stand with energy consumption, yes, that will be included in there. We have some of that information already, and can get the rest of it for the remaining facilities. In terms of electricity usage, I believe we have the other data for heating and other energy consumption, but I don't have that specifically in my hands. So yes, the master plan will have that. The energy chapter will have a lot of that existing, and then the projection, that's another thing that we've talked about, the projection to the future in terms of projecting out what we anticipate continuing to use at our baseline. And then the other part of the question with how to reach the goals. The energy chapter will have the matrix of, what is it called? Implementation matrix?
Yes.
Or is that at the end of the,
So
is it part of
each-
the chapter or separate? I guess.
Well, each chapter will have its own matrix, but we're
okay.
going to put it all together as one at the end. But yeah, each chapter will have its own goals and what the actions are, and
So it'll identify some specific activities and projects to be implemented in the coming years that will help achieve reaching those goals.
Excellent, okay.
Yes.
Very good. And will we have an idea what that is on September 14th, or is it, you're still in a gathering?
Still in the gathering. It won't be, we won't have that accessible on September 14th, but we are still gathering that information. And some of the information that we get from these surveys and the workshops and the community feedback will help prioritize what those things are, and that's what helps develop that matrix, so that we can say the high priority things that should be implemented first are these, and that matrix will also include columns for identifying potential funding sources for advancing some of those activities and or projects. And responsible entities, is that the other?
Yeah,
piece of-
generally you kind of identify who, you know.
Right, if it's like staff.
Right.
Town staff or departments, or if it's more committee and policy related and council and stuff like that.
I'm looking at the polling questions. I thought we had gone over a lot of these questions before, and I remember it's been months, right? It's been months, so I remember something along the lines of, because all of these basically have to do with municipal use. And I think what we discussed, and certainly what I'm thinking right now, is that both in terms of the overall energy impact of the town versus residences and commercial use, as well as what people are really interested in, is less town use and more like how are people going to get solar energy, whatever. I mean, I think CPC&H is an amazing first step, because conceivably, I think for at least one of the 6-month periods, conceivably they could have had 100% renewable energy for cheaper than Eversource. But that's not even the full picture. But I'm just wondering, like, will there be any questions regarding that, or is it all going to be focused on municipal use? Or?
It's really whatever you want.
Yeah, it could be
Yeah.
expanded to more community use questions.
Or maybe some of those suggested actions, to see where, if people have ideas or how they feel about it. So to clarify the.
Like what, I'm sorry, just to clarify, so like, you might be interested in asking people like what they're willing to do,
What they would like to-
personally, or what they would like to see, or.
What they would like to see the town do for them,
For them.
yeah. And rather than
Provide
just, I mean, I'm not
access.
saying that these aren't good things, these are
Yeah.
all good things.
Yeah.
But like, implementing a behavior change program for town employees, it will have a very minimal impact on our overall energy use. So, whereas, and I mean, you referenced it in this polling question over here, but like, building a solar array field, have a much bigger impact, and I think generate a lot more interest. So, we had several suggestions in the suggested energy chapter that dealt with, how do we incentivize and also make accessible solar panels or other renewable energy for low to moderate income households. We had a bunch of different ideas mixed in there. And so it'd be interesting for me to see what the townspeople think of those ideas that we came up with. There was a transportation idea in there. I know the transportation committee is kind of working on stuff. But I would like to see what people think of those things.
So that is actually a good segue to the question I had, was that draft chapter, was that something that you all got together and drafted?
We worked on it. I mean, ultimately, the whole committee approved it.
Okay.
We had like a smaller, like just 2 or 3 people that were working
Okay.
hard on it.
Okay, great. So I think that's a great idea, is to like field test some of the goals. Is that what you were thinking of, like some of the recommendations that you've had in there for different?
Well, the goals
See
were
what-
really clear, right? Like we
what-
want to get to 100% renewable and carbon neutral energy, electricity by 2030, and transportation and heat and fuel by 2050. But then there was like, I guess those goals led to other goals, and then we had like specific, it wasn't put in a matrix form, but I think we outlined it like that, where it was like, here's what we want to do,
Okay.
and here are the steps that we're suggesting
Okay.
to get there. And it included tax incentives, it included a bunch of different stuff. It was a long time ago now. It was like a year ago now.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not.
That was something that you guys did before the master plan was actually even starting.
Well,
Oh,
we had
okay.
kind of a convergence of purpose here, because we had recently, 2 summers ago, we passed this resolution saying that we as a town are committing ourselves to achieving 100% renewable electricity by 2030 and fuel for heat and transportation by 2050. And then part of that resolution, and I know because I wrote it, was, and we're going to come up with a comprehensive plan to get there. And so this was kind of, and then realizing that we didn't have, actually Joe's the one that kind of like discovered, we actually don't have an energy chapter. We really don't have anything about energy in our master plan. So it was kind of both, we need a comprehensive plan and also we need to create an energy chapter. And then it was like, oh, we're overhauling the entire master plan anyway, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great. So you guys have a really big leg up on a lot of the other chapters because you have that already drafted. So I
Just by
think-
luck, really.
Really?
No, it's great. So I like that idea of taking a look at what that draft says in the actions and creating a questionnaire. You know, what are people's reactions to some of the recommended actions
I
that
mean,
are
I
in
can't
there?
promise what the town council thinks about them. But it'd be
Well-
interesting to see what the town people think
Yeah,
about this.
yeah. I mean,
This is an
absolutely.
opportunity to get that engagement and get some feedback on
Yeah, yeah.
where that would go. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
We can pull some of those,
Mhm.
and I think it maybe, and correct me if you disagree, but, or speak up if you disagree, I feel like it might make more sense to have it as a separate polling activity from kind of the municipal focused activities, and we'll probably tweak some of what's here anyway, but have it
I
more
trust you all with the
community-based,
process,
so
but
I think a
however
separate
we
poll
get the
would work
information.
out well, and we can pull those things from that,
Yeah,
to do that as a separate one.
yeah, yeah.
So just so I'm clear on the process, so for example, you've already done the housing, which on the state legislature level, I work very heavily on housing. So and I've worked with Bart a lot on my bills, which he, at the same time, I'm like creating statewide bills and he's creating town policy that looks the same. So I'm very interested. After that's done, does that go up for public comment and all of that process?
It does. So I think at this point, they were talking about doing that on a rolling basis, but I think they're going to do it all at once. So in the spring probably is when all of the chapters should be in their final forms, and then they'll do a series of public meetings, public hearings, all of that before the planning board adopts the chapters. So I think that's.
With the presumption that the planning board is free to like take that public comment into consideration and change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, because right now it's going between the master plan committee, but everything is also being shown to the planning board, so they know what's going on too. And as we get done with final drafts, we're posting them so people can take a look and comment on them all along. So those two are done now, and then, you know, if energy is done sooner than later, we can post that as soon as it's done.
So part of our energy, because we did make this resolution that included transportation, so some of our discussions have centered around transportation. I understand we now have a transportation committee, and maybe this is more of a question for Joe, or certainly Lindsay. Would it be appropriate / possible to have some communication with the transportation committee, either do a joint committee session or have not an ex officio member, but like just a visitor from one committee or the other crossways, so that we can kind of, you know, stay on top of what's going on with that and kind of incorporate that in our thoughts.
Yes.
Since part of energy is transportation.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. It's probably worth having so the Transportation Committee has been formed, but has not had an official meeting yet. The first
Gotcha.
official meeting is September 11th at 7 PM, I believe. So at that meeting, I can mention that.
Oh, that'd be great.
Bring that up. I am the staff liaison for the Transportation Committee as well. So
Awesome.
I am the point of contact in common. I'll mention it there, and once a chair is selected, put you two in contact, and you can figure out what's best
That's
for sharing
wonderful.
information.
Thank you. I don't think, I did come in a few minutes late, but were you able to like infer everything that's happening, at least, that you weren't fully updated?
Surface level.
Okay.
I have a familiarity to some degree with master plan.
Okay. All right, yeah, I think I said we passed a resolution, and that kind of made it so that we had to come up with an energy plan, a comprehensive energy plan. And so that kind of dovetailed into the master plan.
Yeah, so I think the process for the master plan is that we're in the public input phase, so we have the survey out, we're doing the workshop in September, and then the results from that, the committee can take a look at and see if there's anything that you want that might influence what you want in the chapter. And then, because you have a chapter that's already drafted with goals, we can just maybe, I think, go through the exercise of, going through the master plan themes and thinking about energy through those themes. And we could have a really solid draft, done really, I think, before the end of the year, probably. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Is this a revision to a previously existing master plan? When was the last time the master plan was completed?
so, yeah, go ahead.
Well,
It's been a rolling thing.
Yeah, it depends on which chapter you're talking about. Some were updated more recently than others, and it's kind of been, there's not a lot of consistency from chapter to chapter because it's been done that way. Overall, some of the chapters are, I think, even more than 10 years old. I think they're back into the 2005 to 6 timeframe on some of them. Some of them were updated in like 2017, 2019, some more recent timeframes, but some are fairly stale at this point. So it is a comprehensive overall master plan update to provide some more consistency from chapter to chapter and fluidity and hopefully more user-friendly document going forward.
The master plan had a reference to an energy chapter, but there was no energy chapter.
And is there a waste management recycling type chapter, or is that all?
No, there isn't.
Funny you should bring that up, because I was you probably got the agenda. That's I'll wait till the end, but that's been on our radar for a while, and there's been some updates. But we've been so busy with the energy planning and I think we're just wrapping up our side of that we hadn't gone into the waste management stuff yet.
That's a good point. The energy chapter is really, geared towards energy. And I know there's like a riverfront or whatever. Is there an environmental chapter that would cover recycling and that type of stuff?
Water? Is there water?
There's
There's
natural
riverfront.
resources,
There's riverfront.
or natural resources and water resources, but I don't believe there's anything with waste management in either of those chapters. It might make sense to include it in community facilities
That's generally
and
where.
utilities.
I mean, I
It's a
think
public service.
that should tie back to the resiliency theme of, obviously, I think I'm going to speak for myself, I presume a lot of Newmarketers feel the same way, that we want to see our town as a town that is helping all kinds of environmental issues rather than adding to those problems, including with waste. So there's, I think historically been very limited ability for a town to impact that. It's kind of like people use what they're going to use, but I think we can investigate what we might be able to do.
So is that something we need to follow up on or do? That you'll take that?
I think we will take that back and discuss with Bart and probably some of the master plan subcommittee teams to see where that fits and make sure that we can incorporate that in there.
Okay. Excellent. Good point, thank you.
Sorry to add work.
We are going to talk about that this afternoon. That's what you're
Is there anything else in the master plan for now?
I don't think so. Interesting to see, September 14th, we'll advertise that and see if we can get, committee members to attend as well.
Yeah, and if there is an energy and environment committee member that would like to attend and potentially be available to answer questions at one of the activities and stations to kind of provide more information to the people attending on some background information or CPCNH. Kind of looking at you, Joe.
I was planning on being there, but
I have an all-day charter, I have to work.
That would be great if you can attend
Yep, I'll be
to
there.
Thank you.
provide your feedback and represent the committee, but also be able to answer questions to people that kind of want to know a little bit more about what's going on.
Yeah, excellent, right.
Yeah, it might be good to have like maybe a copy of the resolution. I don't know if everyone is aware of it or not. I mean, that could be like, we're trying to, at each station, have a little bit of education about the subject. So if there's anything like that we should have.
I have it, I can send it to.
Okay.
I can pull it up.
Yeah,
no
just
problem,
say,
yeah.
do you know that, like, that's even a question, like, do you know that Newmarket has a resolution?
It was kind of a big deal when it passed.
Yeah.
2 years ago, there were like 60.
We had a few fights over some of them.
I
one
wasn't
word.
even going to go there, Joe. But there were 60 people showed up to that town council meeting, which usually is 0.
Yeah.
And I had a petition of something like 300 people who could sign. So I think at the time, some people were aware of it.
Yeah.
But certainly 2 years later, people move away, move in, we don't know.
Yeah.
And it's worth reminding everybody,
Right,
at the very
right.
least.
And then just, yeah, like, that, they think that's the little educational piece, and then just a follow-up of like, okay, to get there, we need to X, Y, Z, and what's the support for that? So I think that's good. Okay.
Awesome.
We did need to decide what we wanted the electronic poll to be, right, before September 14th. You were thinking, Ellen, something more along the lines of what's in there about how to help people, or like solar power and things,
Yeah.
rather than what's on here.
Right, that's what I was saying, and I remember
Yeah.
taking notes about the questions. This was so many months ago, and Europe has happened since then, and I don't know. So I don't remember the notes that I took. I'm sure I could find them somewhere, but we did talk about the polling questions.
Okay.
That must
Well,
be-
what we can do
It's
is.
a recording of the meeting.
Do we?
All mine says is SRPC survey questions, so I got nothing.
Not the best note taker, okay?
We can take a stab at pulling it together and then send it out next week. I mean, we have 2 weeks to finish it up, but if we can maybe next week, and then, I know next week's a holiday week, but try to, if we can get the questions nailed down by like the beginning of, my phone, but the week before the 14th,
Yeah,
like that Monday.
That's
Monday,
the
Tuesday.
9th or 10th.
Yeah, so if we can get the questions finalized by then, that would be great. Then we'll have time to turn it into the poll. So, okay. Right. Is there anything else you can think of that we need to?
No,
Yeah.
that was,
Okay,
thank you.
that's perfect.
That was helpful.
And then, after the workshop, we can regroup on the chapter and
sounds
go
great.
from there.
So, I just want, Kerry, what's your last name?
It's Diers, D-I-E-R-S.
Z-I-R?
D as in David,
Oh, D. Yep.
I-E-R-S as in Sam.
D-I-R-S?
D-I-E,
D-I-E.
D-I-E-R-S.
Dyers.
Simple enough. And Kerry with a C, not a K, right?
With a K.
Oh,
No!
And if you want to know, K-E-R-R-I-E.
K-E-R, okay, like Kerry Washington. Or does she do a
I-E?
Y?
I think, is she a Y? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I
Probably not.
hardly ever come across anyone that's a K with an I-E.
Except for the C,
The C, yes.
yeah. Okay, all right.
Thank you
You'll-
so
you'll-
much.
Thank
probably
you.
come up as, you'll come up as Fred on the minutes.
Bob was
Nice to meet
great.
you all.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
take
much.
Thank
care.
you. Skipping around the agenda, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, another thing I had, recently, there was a request for qualifications related to solar energy, and I thought if Lindsay could just explain what a request for qualifications is where it stands and what might be happening with solar energy?
Yes, so the request for qualifications was a solicitation to see if there are solar developers interested in partnering with the town on a variety of projects. So we outlined a couple of projects with potential for ground-mounted solar arrays and asked these prospective developers to kind of submit their qualifications on developing a site similar to that, similar size, as what we're looking to do, which is relatively small, and present some options for financing and progressing those projects. So we went through that process specifically because many federal and state funding sources require a qualifications-based process. So that was why we did a request for qualifications, no pricing included, to select qualified firms. So we went through that process. The selection committee selected and recommended partnering with Revision Energy and Citizens Energy Corp. As the two. They kind of have a lot of overlapping expertise, but also Revision tends to be more smaller scale and residential expertise, and definitely has a stronghold in New Hampshire and has been doing a lot of this work with various municipalities and has been really great and came highly recommended too. And Citizens Energy has a different approach where they have more expertise in larger development projects that produce more energy and can provide some options for power purchase agreements, as opposed to ownership, where they would come in and lease the site and could provide, so they have some different benefits to the town in that realm. So we've gotten through the process of selecting them. We have a agreement to partner with them as we go forward, and now we are at engaging Revision Energy to discuss advancing one of those well sites. So we're looking to get the engineering and permitting and start the interconnection process for advancing a 500 kilowatt, most likely, ground-mounted solar array at the Sewell well site. And Sean has been heavily involved in that, as it is a water department site and his purview. So Sean and I are discussing the engineering piece with Revision Energy so we can advance that one forward. And the goal is to get that engineered and permitting underway so that we are prepared for the next round of state revolving fund solicitations for projects that come up in May, June. So we'll have a project with a cost estimate ready to go, and we can seek funding from the state for that one, because there are some good programs for energy efficiency opportunities in drinking water.
Is the goal of that one, 500 kilowatts doesn't sound very big. Is it just to like offset the electric use that's?
It would
Be-
offset, it would provide us an opportunity to have behind the meter use at the well site and offset operational costs of almost all of I think actually all of the water facilities, so all of the well, pump houses, the water treatment plant.
Not just the Sewell?
Not just Sewell,
facility?
nope, all of the water system. And the other reason that we're looking specifically at offsetting all the costs in the water system is because then it's one funding source and enterprise fund of the water division. But there will be excess, likely, will be excess energy generated at that site with the 500 kilowatts. So we don't necessarily need to clear cut. That's the size array that would fit pretty well in the existing cleared field area of the site. And I guess there are also some recommendations we've gotten from the developers that there's benefit to not going over a certain kilowatt. I forget what we haven't gotten too detailed in the discussions yet, but that was the recommendation as kind of the sweet spot for being able to cover more than what we use on the water side, and then the excess for the surplus energy can be used to offset costs for other municipal facilities as well.
I think it's a good start and a good learning opportunity, so,
Yep.
you know,
That's
excellent.
kind of how we're seeing it, and then we can expand to others. And there is also some work that we're doing. SRPC is helping me to work on some technical assistance in the brownfields program for the landfill site, because that is another opportunity that we could potentially pursue. It's not quite as shovel-ready as, there's not three-phase power at that site already, but that's an opportunity that we're looking to maybe pursue with citizens for a much larger array that could produce more energy that could benefit offset costs in the town.
The infrastructure isn't there to get the electric
Correct,
out.
so that one would
So-
be, is a larger capital cost, which is
Mhm.
why that one seems to be a better fit for a much larger array and a larger developer to do that one. So those are two that were,
I do have one other thing. There's so many grants out there. How do you keep tab of them? Who's actually doing that?
I try. A lot of the grants that are out there currently have been, the ones that I've seen have been more for really big projects or really small arrays. The one most recently that you forwarded to me was for under 60 kilowatt sites, which is kind of geared more towards rooftop arrays, and usually is more to implementation and construction. And we didn't have anything that was kind of on the shelf and readily identified for something that small. But there, yes, I try to keep track of those. Katrin Casper, also from Clean Energy New Hampshire, she's a circuit rider for our area. I've started talking with her more frequently, and she's been passing some information along to me when there are funding opportunities, so I discussed with her, because they provide technical assistance in the grant applications and pursuit on that stuff.
Trying to get community power to actually have somebody on staff that can work with the towns and that is on top of them and can say, hey, Newmarket is looking to do something out there, landfill, and here's an opportunity, something that has an idea what's going on in all the different towns and
Yeah,
can work with them.
that would be great.
Oh,
What a
Yeah.
dream. That would be awesome. If we're done with that item, which one do you want to take next?
Community power updates and whatever?
Sure.
Okay. So, for Scott, a couple of years ago, we started this thing where Newmarket joined a coalition of a bunch of other towns, and that coalition, Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire.
Shall I
their-
give it to him?
Yeah, sure. Their objective is to, get all these cities and towns together and purchase electricity on behalf of them at a lower cost. Okay, so it took almost 2 years, but as of this past March, Newmarket Community Power went live. Okay, so now Newmarket Community Power is the default electric supplier for the town of Newmarket, with the exception of, and you may, if you're a new resident, if you just move in, you automatically get defaulted back to Eversource. So you have to actually go to Community Power and say, hey, I want to opt in and join into Community Power. So anyway, Newmarket Community Power, like I say, went live in March. I got some counts and stats that I will review with the group. If I can find it.
And this is not community solar, it's just a...
The Community Power Coalition goes out and they buy electric on the market, okay? Because they're a nonprofit and they're doing things just with, the 50, right now there's 50 communities that are in part of it. They can offer rates that are lower than Eversource. Again, it's only the electric supply portion, it's not the delivery and all that.
A few years ago, a law was passed on the state level that allowed towns and counties to essentially come together as a cooperative, whichever ones wanted to, not all of them, and create their own alternative power company to Eversource. So they are essentially a public power company as a competitor to Eversource. And they just kind of existed, not, kind of theoretically, not theoretically, they were doing things, they existed, but they weren't live. We were one of the founding members, but then the first wave went live in terms of like the first few towns actually started using community power as their default energy, like 2 years ago? And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but in that, so when you go in, the town will set what the default plan will be, because they have several plans, community power. One would be like 100% renewable energy. Eversource is standard is 22% renewable energy. And that first 6-month period, because it just happened, that Eversource happened to buy at a time it was really expensive. Community Power's 100% renewable energy was cheaper than Eversource's 22%.
No,
Not that first
not
6
the
months, the second 6-month period?
The 33% and 50%.
Yeah, okay.
Is cheaper.
Oh, but was it it was like right at the same, it was like
Yeah,
within
it's
a
on the
penny?
card there.
Okay, oh, the card, okay. So, but the point is, we've had a couple more waves. Newmarket was in March, so there's a few dozen. How many towns are live
There's 50 towns that are live now.
that are currently getting their power from this public company? And they've saved ratepayers across the state. A year ago, it was something like 10 million, so it's probably much more than that now.
Is there a percentage on average that a resident can save, you know?
On average.
I have some
That
of
would be a great,
I have some of
yeah.
that. I'll show you in a second. But anyway, these are the current rates that went into effect August 1st through January. So Newmarket is at Granite Basic. That's our default. It's 8.6 cents per kilowatt hour, and it's 24.3% renewable energy. Granite Plus is 33%, 9.3 cents, and Clean 50, 50% clean energy is 10 cents. Eversource, which is their default, is 24.3% clean energy.
They've increased since then.
And they're 10.4 cents per kilowatt hour.
So our
So-
50% is cheaper than their 24%.
Out of curiosity, so forgive me if these are odd questions, but this is for the generation. Does Eversource still own the distribution? So you
Yes.
still have to pay whatever that rate is? to
Yeah.
Eversource?
Yeah.
What is it?
I said that's what costs you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Correct, and
Okay.
also they're, if you have lines go down, they're the ones that fix it.
That's the other question I was told just yesterday by my new neighbor, that we do lose power several times a year.
Okay. So back to some stats. So as this particular spreadsheet is as of the end of July, there are 5,558 accounts or meters in the town of Newmarket. 3,989 are on Newmarket Community Power. So that's 71.8% of the town is on Newmarket Community Power. The average, across all of the 50 members at the present is 68.8%. So we're slightly above the number of people, or percentage of people that are on Newmarket Community Power.
Is that voluntary enrollment, or was it automatic, like?
It was,
opt-
you were automatically enrolled, but you can, anybody can opt out.
Okay,
You can
okay.
call up and say, no, I want to go with Eversource, or I want to go with, Direct Energy or somebody else.
If you were in a regular Eversource plan, you were automatically enrolled unless you opted out, but there were certain business schemes that Eversource had, I think, and then also if you had already had an alternative provider, right? Then you were not automatically.
Correct. And also, too, if you had like a solar array on your house and you were participating in net metering, in other words, your meter goes backwards and you get a credit, they weren't enrolled either because Community Power couldn't get them the net the net monies, whatever.
Right.
Eversource really wasn't sharing the information, and there's some discussion still going on as to net metering, who gets the benefit? Is it the supplier, like Newmarket Community Power, Do they get all the benefit of net metering, or does Eversource get some of that because they have the lines and all that? So there's some stuff going on about that. But anyway, of the 3,989 accounts that are on Newmarket Community Power, 3,838 are in the default,
Yep.
Granite Basic, they're in the default category. 13 are in, 13 have opted up. They've gone from the default service, Basic, to something higher. I've got the stats and what those are later. Of the 3,000 people that are on 3,900 that are in community power, 138 people have opted in. They, for some reason or other, they weren't enrolled, or they were new to the town and they defaulted to Eversource and they've, opted back in. Nobody has opted down. So anybody that's gone to Clean 50 or Clean 33, nobody has gone back down to Community Basic. And 58 people have opted out. They've said, I want to go with somebody else. Or they got enrolled and, hey, I've added solar panels and you can't give me the net metering, so I want to go back to Eversource or whatever. But anyway, we have 138 that have come in, but only 58 have gone out.
Has there been any surveying or polling or engagement around, 13 out of 4,000 is a, insignificant fraction.
It's another thing we're going to talk about today is the Seacoast Challenge, which we were trying to get people to opt out.
Yeah, it's a fairly new program, right? So,
Another thing I'll add, too, is we are the Energy and Environment Committee, but we had to file a plan with the Public Utilities Commission, an energy aggregation plan. And in that plan, it says this committee is actually the Electric Aggregation Committee, so we are the actual ones that we make recommendations to the town council as to what the default should be. We can talk a little bit more about, there's an adder fee that potentially they could add, the town could add to a fee. It's up to us to make recommendations to the town council whether to do that. Okay. So those are the counts of people that have opted in, opted out, whatever. Next thing I have is community benefit. So this is through the end of June. Okay. So here's the little statistics or what's happening with this. The last rate period went from January through July. Okay. Newmarket went live in March. It was actually, March was the last meter reading with Eversource. So it was really April, May, June, and July, 4 months that were actually on community power. Community power had to go out and buy a bunch of electricity to cover what Newmarket was going to be using over the 6 months. Okay, they do 20 or 30% they buy in the market, as it's going, on a daily basis. Okay, what I'm going to need tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. But 70%, 70, 80% of what they buy, they have to buy at the beginning of the period, okay, to cover what they're going to have. So there was a large outlay of money for Newmarket for this first quarter, or the first period that we went live, okay? So in January or whatever, they bought a bunch of electricity from Newmarket. Newmarket didn't actually start using it until April or so, okay? So from March, or really April, through the end of June, this is the end of June, Newmarket had revenues of $420,000. That's how much Newmarket residents paid for their electric supply. Eversource, Community Power, because they had bought electricity before Newmarket actually came live, they had spent $532,000 for electric supply. So we've made up $420,000 of that initial outlay that they have. So as of the end of June, we're negative $112,000. Okay, we expect that will greatly go up, as we go along. Okay,
By go up, you mean the deficit will reduce.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right now, we have a negative reserve. Okay, some of the money that is being collected by Community Power for the electric goes into a bucket for reserves, okay? And they're keeping the reserves by the individual towns. How those reserves, that reserve gets spent is to be decided by Community Power along with the difference. If Newmarket were to come up with some kind of a big solar array, we may be able to go to Community Power and say, hey, we would like to do this, and Community Power would say, hey, Stratham or, local towns around the area, do you want to pitch in part of your reserves to help Newmarket do this? So how they do the reserves is still further down the line. There's not going to be any spending of reserve money until Community Power gets to a point where they have enough for 6 months of revenue, where they have 6 months in reserve to fund them should something happen. Okay? Once they get that 6-month reserve, then they can start hitting this additional reserve. So for Newmarket, the benefit so far was only $9,000. In other words, had everybody been with Eversource, they would have paid $9,000 more. Okay. Again, that's going to go significantly up over the next year or so. Okay. So the community benefit, they say, is what you saved and what has gone into reserve is the total benefit for the community. And right now, our total benefit is a negative amount. So, questions on that?
No, but I mean, it's because we were only active for 3 of the 6 months.
That's correct. I mean, if you look at, all the other towns, like some of the stuff that went live, like Canterbury went live in 2023. I think they're close to maybe our size of 6,000 people. They have reserves right now of $101,000.
Can we pull up Portsmouth, because I remember being impressed with Portsmouth numbers.
Yeah, Portsmouth.
I know that they're obviously larger than us.
Yeah, so Portsmouth had $10 million and $10.7 million in revenues.
Okay.
And the cost of their electricity was $9,000 or $9 million. Okay, they had $10.7 million in revenue. Their costs were $9.3 million. So they have technically $1.3 million in reserve.
1.3 million in reserve and then 1.8 million in savings for a
Correct.
total of 3.2 million.
Correct.
Now, I mean, they're a much larger town,
Mhm.
but that's really awesome. But they I think they used the full 6 months.
So, we can look forward to hopefully figures like that. Okay. So.
How does Community Power set, part of it is driven by the wholesale market rate, but how do they, because there's the revenue versus, there's the rate that we pay, our residents pay versus what they earn, but how are they setting their price?
Okay, so, Community Power, I'm on the board of directors for Community Power, okay, and I get no compensation, so there's no, I just have to join. They have a CEO, they have a whole group that does hedge funding, they look at what the market is. They have a consulting group that they work with, Ascend Analytics. Basically, they go out, they look at what the market's going to be, they come up with some formulas and say, okay, we're going to hedge fund this month, we're going to buy X amount of electricity at this rate, between this rate and this rate, and we're going to send another 30% or 20%. We're going to purchase that the day before. Okay, so there's a whole group that does risk management, and they set the rates. They present it to the board of directors, and the board of directors approves it.
So they're able to obtain a rate that's competitive and lower than Eversource or whatever, but it's also generating.
Yes, the reality is Eversource has to come up with their rates at a certain time, so when Community Power comes out with their rates, it's a couple of days after, so they look at what Eversource has done, and they say, okay, yeah, we can beat them, they're 10 cents, we can be 8 cents.
In addition to that, then it also, although we're not realizing it yet, the towns that are participating get revenue in a like a savings account for us. We can't touch it until Community Power as a whole gets to this kind of 6-month sustainability system where they have enough in reserves. But then once that happens, we can ask, hey, can we use some of that revenue to build a solar field? Or can we use some of that for whatever? In addition, we can also actually, in theory, although when we had our public session, some of the residents who showed up got antsy about this. In theory, we can add to the actual price. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And directly keep that. So if it's 10 cents, 10.8 cents or whatever, 10 cents, we could say, 10.5 cents, and then the town would keep that.
Is that what you were saying before? You're saying the adder that?
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
what it'll be.
It's a question. I mean, I don't know if you had any more updates before we get to that question.
No, that's pretty much it.
Well, we should talk about that question.
The next thing, the Seacoast Challenge. So there's currently a contest on between us, Exeter, Durham, Dover, who else? Stratham was going to join, I don't know if Stratham has joined, in Portsmouth. It's called the Seacoast Challenge to see what community can get more people to upgrade to a higher level of clean energy. Okay.
Percentage, because Portsmouth will have us beat.
No, it's going to be based on a percentage, not the
Okay.
number of people. The contest started August 1st, okay? So we had this thing called the Backyard Bash recently, which is a town thing. And so, we were trying to get the word out about that, but I'd like committee, how can we go forward there and publicize getting people to upgrade to our level of energy?
Well, I mean, my first go-to is like our, social media, but did we ever get, Steve, back in the meeting of the chairs that we had, we were supposed to get dedicated social media accounts for each committee, I thought, and that never happened.
I don't know.
Also, a dedicated, cloud drive, because I still have stuff on my Google Drive that, it belongs to the committee, but I don't have an actual, town should have it, because I
Yeah.
won't be around forever.
The committee does have, I did talk to finance administration about that, and we got that set up.
Okay.
It's a Teams, Microsoft Teams link, and I believe it was set up so that the chair should have gotten an invite, so if you did not, I will.
I mean, I'm not going to say 100% I did not, I don't remember seeing it.
Okay. Alternatively, you could send to me and I can put it in that folder because I do have a link to that folder.
Okay.
So there is a folder that exists for at least, I know, energy and environment and transportation and riverfront.
Probably
because
the
I've
easiest thing is
talked
just
with
to
those.
share you on the EE drive that I set up way back, way back. And so this is like before the resolution was even written. So I can share you on that and you can just.
Yeah, if that's where you have everything, yeah, if you want to just
Google Drive.
connect me to that.
But I think it is important that we have dedicated social media accounts so that, I or Joe or somebody can, say, hey, this is happening. We've talked about in the past for Solarize project, we've talked about in the past for community power, we've talked about it for doing recycling, like PSA stuff. So we just never really, I think Joe's posted some stuff occasionally. But it'd be great if we had, I mean, a whole slew of social media accounts would be awesome. Be nice to have an Insta, have a TikTok, get Joe to do a TikTok. I can see him in his car right now talking about how awesome and the 50% clean rate is like 2 cents cheaper than Eversource.
There is an Energy and Environment Facebook page that Peter Nelson has.
Right, we never got him, we asked him for the credentials on that, and he never,
I-
I don't think, did he?
I don't know what happened with that. I see every now and then he posts something, or reposts something that I post.
So, yeah, it would be great. Well, I mean, even his Facebook page, I think, I could be wrong, but it seems like the town would want to create their town sanctioned Facebook page rather than whatever Peter has.
Yes, I
So,
would imagine.
But Facebook and all, X, I still have a problem saying X. Insta. I don't do any of these things, by the way. I just hear it's what the kids do. I do like some TikTok, though.
One other thing I glossed over, I forgot, just for what it's worth. There are 3,964 people that are on Granite Basic in Newmarket. There are 9 people that are Granite Plus, which is the 33%. There are 8 people that are on Clean 50 and 8 people that are on Clean 100. Okay, so this is the starting figures for the contest, the clean.
Can you go back to the price chart?
The price chart? Yep.
Yeah. Because there's really no reason people shouldn't be, if Eversource is
10.4.
10.4, we should be getting them to go up to at least plus, but certainly, like, I think 50, clean 50 is still cheaper.
So the question I have is, okay, how can we get the word out? How can you, I mean, we can continue banging on Facebook or whatever. I can do stuff on Facebook or whatever, but do you have any other ideas?
Well, the town newsletter, obviously.
Mhm.
If you, is there any, like, what, we're entering into the fall, we're gonna have, wait, when does the contest over?
It goes through January, so we're gonna go through the
Okay,
whole.
we're gonna have like, what, Old Home Day or whatever we got? We'll have like little town stuff.
I was wondering if, September 14th, can I do a little side hustle there?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Say, hey, by the way, okay.
Yep.
I've got,
Have a laptop, they can do it right there.
Any other town, like, festival-y things coming up? I mean, we could do flyers, usually the library and maybe the church and places like that would put them up. I mean, we have the same conversation every single time, because we're always like, how do we get more people involved? It was like, well, on social media, on the newsletter, the website. And I will still say this, although it's going to be more difficult with this message, but I've said it about Solarize, I've said it about CPCNH. I want to get the big LED sign that y'all put down at Main Street for the elections, and I want to put the message on it, because I think if you really want to get like the most number of people, everybody passes that intersection, everybody sees that sign.
Does the community have any concerns with putting flyers on local businesses, or is it, we try to stick to the town buildings?
I think as long as businesses will take our flyers. I've never asked about like actual like windshield flyering. I don't know how the town would feel about that, but, I mean, they might be okay.
I mean, there's tons of foot traffic, right?
Right, we could,
I wouldn't,
This QR code to the website that we can change it and showing you the highlighting that it's not like.
it's still cheaper than Eversource,
If you're on Eversource. I mean,
which
that's-
they're no longer on Eversource, so it's still an increase from what they're paying.
Oh, yeah, okay,
But, because they've already switched over to
Yeah.
community power.
right.
I was surprised that those numbers were that low, because I would have thought more people would have opted up with the prices being what they are.
again, my gut feeling is a lot of people like me, I get all sorts of crap in the mail, and they just,
Oh, yeah.
I don't even really look at it.
So I think we can simplify this flyer a lot. And then I think the QR code is really a good idea.
We have the website, Newmarket Community Power, Newmarket, Power Coalition.
No, but I'm like, literally just like, here's Eversource, here's, the Clean 50 and Clean 100, just put it like, Clean 30, what is it, Granite Plus, Clean 50 and Clean 100. And just put those like right next to Eversource and say if you want to, so when they opt up, do they have to log into their own, like how do they do that?
They just do call that number and say, just have to have your account
Can they go on a
number.
website?
They can do it on the website too.
Okay, so just have the QR code for that website, like right next to the chart of the like 3 plans, and like that's all you need. Like that's, if it's all this stuff with the map and I think the map is good, but if it's all that stuff, they won't know what it is. They're like, okay, it's information.
Yep, go to the website, all you need is your account number, and,
Oh, we'll lose them then. That's where we'll lose them.
Is there more information around how the CPCNH gets their renewable content? How they get to 100%, 50%, 33%? I know that there's the asterisk here about complying with like ours.
there is a frequently asked questions, and I believe in there frequently it talks a little bit
Okay.
about what our clean energy source is, whatever. The reality is, the electric that you get at any particular point in time might come from anything. It might come from coal, might come from gas, whatever. But at the end of the year, they have to do an accounting. They have to say, okay, we promised X amount of clean energy, we delivered this amount. They have to go out and buy what they call requisitions to make up the difference, should they have to.
But we do know that some of those schemes can be a little misleading and not really as clean, and it would be interesting to find out like what CPCNH is doing to avoid that problem. I know that when we've talked to them about that, they've said that they were like making sure, but I don't have the information about what they're doing, so.
No, I know they're buying it, I'm on the,
No, I know they're buying it, but the problem is sometimes the threshold for what people have to come up with in order to sell a credit isn't necessarily really what you'd be getting if you were generating clean energy.
The process is complicated and not well.
It's very, very complicated. For example, I know out in California, they still have a system in place where essentially cattle farmers were able to sell credits because they were producing methane that, I don't know how you capture methane from cattle, but but apparently they were using it, and that was, I don't know, because they were capturing some of the methane rather than having it go out into the atmosphere. So they were doing a little less bad than they would have been doing. That was considered a credit, right? So they're still polluting. But because they're capturing some of the stuff and not all of the stuff, they could sell a credit, so.
There's an industry for that. In natural gas.
I don't know how you capture cattle farts, but anyway.
Would you two like to take a cut at trying to clean this up? And
Oh, the card? Oh, I am in the middle of an election.
I can take a stab at it. Do you have what can you provide?
I think, so,
this
well, I mean,
card-
can you
yeah.
send, can you
An
send the
editable
whole?
copy of
I
this?
do not. I
No.
have a PDF of it.
But
Okay.
just screenshot, like
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
screenshot
just
that
this,
with
yeah.
just the Eversource.
Yeah.
And then get a QR code generator,
Yeah.
generate that QR code.
This is also on, I mean, if you go to the Newmarket website,
Yeah.
it's there as
Oh,
well.
but with our logo.
Yes.
We have, every town that has gone live has their own logo. So we have a Newmarket Community Power logo that we spent. It's not, so this isn't the Newmarket Community Power, the Newmarket one. This is the general CPCNH one. But Newmarket looks a lot like, oh, you brought it up?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
on the
here.
front?
On the other
Oh,
side.
yeah, it's the front,
That's it?
or
Okay.
back. I don't know which one, I don't know which side's which. Actually, that looks a lot more complicated. Okay, never mind. We spent a lot of time talking about the logo.
So
Anyway,
anyway, I will put some stuff out on social media. I'll have some stuff there for the September 14th. You guys can think of anything, go for it.
Is there anything coming up for the fall, though, like town activity-wise?
Budget committee hearings.
No, no, no. Fun things, fun things. I
Nothing.
know that budget committee might be fun
Election.
for you.
No, it is.
You're like, no.
Yeah. Didn't we table it at an election before?
Oh, did we table an election?
I thought we had something up, down.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
during the election, I had the sign up behind me. I can do
Yeah.
that again, too.
Okay,
Sneak it in here.
well, then we have
With the
September.
updated, simplified, look at your rate.
And then we need a banner. It's like, go clean for less, or something like that. Should have been in marketing.
Okay. So that's all I've got about community power.
Okay, what else do we have on the agenda?
Last thing is the waste management. I do have something that I want to talk about and show,
Okay,
but
well, I'll
So-
introduce the idea, and then I have that presentation, and they're scheduled for October. I'll get to that. So in the past, we've talked about how we would like to investigate what Newmarket is doing currently for waste management and what other options exist and what, if anything, can be improved. One of the ideas that kind of goes along with it is we wanted to recruit the help, and it was actually Joe's, I think it was Joe's idea, it was really good, I thought. Recruit the help of the Sustainability Club at the high school to help us like produce like a little video PSA to explain to people how to recycle, what they can recycle, what they can't, stuff like that. So, thought it was a good idea, we just never got it off the ground because we were so busy with energy. So now that energy's dying down, wanted to kind of investigate that. Also, the idea of touring, not just, our facility, but like the company we go through and what, asking them what the process is. What do they do with this? What do they do with that? And, see if there's any, I know at the time, our committee membership has changed since we first had this discussion, but at the time, somebody, who I can't remember, said that they had toured some other facilities, and it was really kind of disheartening that most of the things that people, of course, think that they're going to recycle are actually getting thrown away. So, but they were just kind of disheartened in general. I understand we do compost, but people have to take it, the town doesn't pick up like a Mr. Fox or whatever, that people have to take it to the dump. But we do compost.
We do actually do Mr. Fox.
Oh, you do?
Not curbside pickup, but
Oh.
Mr. Fox bins are at the transfer station.
Okay.
So you can bring your brush and yard waste for composting, and then you could also bring food waste to the Mr. Fox bins.
I have exclusively lived in apartments for my 15 years here, and so I have never actually gone into
The transfer
dump.
station?
Yeah.
Okay.
that's all I want to talk about.
Yeah, so that was the first idea, is just to start like information gathering. What are we doing? What options exist? And just kind of assess what we think, if anything, can be improved. So I'll let you take it from there, but then I have one more thing, which is a big idea.
Okay. So, you're new here, but Newmarket has a transfer station, okay? And then at that transfer station, there's this big container for cardboard, and then there's this other big container for recyclables. Now, recyclables are supposed to be bottles, cans, and plastic, not all plastic. This is a picture that I took about 2 weeks ago of that bin that has the recycling stuff in it. You can see there's cardboard in there, there's, I saw there's a plastic bag in there. I'm not sure that some of this plastic is not recyclable, okay? So,
But people don't know that, right? And if you say recyclables, people know that cardboard is recyclable, but they don't know that we're not recycling the cardboard. They know that plastic bags are recyclable because you could take them to the grocery store and put them in there, but they don't know that we're not recycling plastic bags.
right. So the question, what can we do to help
That,
that?
that mess. I mean, I lived in Japan
So,
for 3 years.
You have a
We all-
background in
we
recycling.
separated our.
How do you go about doing this?
So, not giving too much credit, but have we done an audit on our existing, like you can literally audit waste bins or recycling bins and get a sense of like what the contamination rate is, on average for residents, and call it 20% of what goes into the bin is not truly recyclable, and that's like a baseline for us, and then from there we can.
I don't know how they could do an audit.
I don't think, the town could not necessarily do
No.
that audit, but the town contracts Casella
Yep.
Waste Management, and I would imagine Casella could maybe give us some sort of information on that. I don't know if they currently track it, but maybe that's something you could pursue with them.
The trucks, the solid trucks that pick up recycling, do they bring it to the transfer station and then it gets dumped and resorted, or it goes outside?
Separate, yeah.
Sounds like a good first step for the master plan part of waste management is auditing our trash and recycling. Yeah.
Well, and I think even if it won't be like a true audit with, by experts, but even if we just begin the process of investigating what's going on and getting answers, then that's like a pre-audit. And because there are, and I can pretty easily find them, statistics on how much is essentially wish cycling.
Exactly.
And there's not much guidance at the transfer station either. There's, one guy who's there on Wednesday and Saturday, and he just says, yeah, over there and over there, and,
Better information there. Probably.
yeah, pictures of what
Oh,
goes in.
I was there a long time ago. I went once, but it was probably over 10 years ago. And I was bringing, part of what I was bringing, like bigger stuff, but it was a screen from a window, which I think was made of steel. It was metal, metallic. I'm like, this is steel, right? And he's like, no. And he just threw it away. I'll never know if it actually was recyclable and he just didn't want to deal with it.
Because there is a big pile of metal in the back.
Right.
Too. Yeah.
But how do you even know what something is, or some little
Yeah.
shred of plastic or whatever? So just because I know all you know, but Scott's new, so I am a state rep, and I am the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators state lead for New Hampshire, and I just got back actually a couple weeks ago from their national conference. And one of the things that I've put in years past, actually before I even went to my first conference with them, was what we call extended producer responsibility. I put it in before I knew it had a name. I just thought I thought I invented it. I'm like, why are we paying to recycle or try to take care of all these things that these companies produce for us, and they have no incentive really to make sure that they're producing something that's, recyclable or easy to manage or compostable, other than to greenwash themselves, right? That's the only real incentive. So they can produce a whole bunch of styrofoam, and then we're stuck with it. And how is that fair that you're downshifting that onto taxpayers? So anyway, I came up with a bill that I put in, which of course went nowhere, that was essentially creating a plan that there would be a state agency that would essentially, all these companies would report to how much of whatever product that they sold, whatever the single use or packaging items, and they would have to report to that, and based on how much it costs to properly dispose, there would be a fee assessed to those companies, and then that money would then get disseminated to the towns to deal with it. So that's my preference, because that would be a disincentive to create stuff that you can't do anything with. But we're not there yet.
So what's the next step?
I think the next step, should we just schedule a tour as a committee for just to start with our dump? Maybe somebody reach out to Casella, and I guess I'm supposed to since I'm the chair. Can somebody do that? I have so much going on.
What would you ask of Casella?
If they would literally either a tour or have somebody talk to us and tell us exactly what happens and answer questions, just like a Q&A or a presentation kind of thing.
I guess I'm also wondering what part of the master plan this is going to fall in, since we just brought it up, right? And it might be put to another committee. I guess anything we can find out can always get passed on to who.
Well, we are environment.
Yeah.
As far as I know, there's no
absolutely.
waste management.
We want to be
committee.
involved in it, no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Environment's in the name.
Yes.
Yeah. So September we could ask if a Casella rep would be willing to speak to the committee for our September meeting and explain everything that happens? I don't know. I'm open to ideas, y'all.
I think that's a good starting point.
Okay.
I think that would be a good source of getting some information because they handle all of the curbside contracting for us currently.
Okay. Okay. So we'll start with that. And I guess we'll go from there. And we can ask him if he can provide us with like percentages.
Can I send you a note? I'll send it to you and Steve and say, is it possible to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And I would also include Rick,
Yeah.
because Rick is in charge of managing the transfer station and our curbside collection. He does all of the solid waste. So he may have a contact person at Casella for us to get in touch with to start on that, and for coordinating the tour of the transfer station, he would be the one to talk to there.
He is also welcome to come and talk to us and present. I did call him when we first were talking about this, about trying to get something simple and easy for the kids to use for their PSA in terms of, what is it that's, people are throwing out that's not getting recycled, and what do you need to stress to people? He's like, it's all online. And like got really gruff with me. It's on the website. I'm like, okay.
Well, if you were asking him to get in front of a camera, I'm sure he was going to be a little...
No, I was asking the kids to get in front of the camera, but
Okay.
I was asking them for information to give the kids.
Okay.
So they could create a little ad. And he's like, it's online. All right, fine. So, but he's also welcome to come talk to us and whatever, but yeah, let's make sure we get Casella. So that will be September. Anything else on this particular aspect of waste management? Because I have a thing, which could be nothing, but it's an idea.
One last point. This is from Cambridge, but they have an app it's not related to the recycling point, but they have an app called Get Rid of It, right? And every whoever is interested can download it and enter any item to see how to get rid of it.
How do you enter an item, just type the description, or?
Yeah, so it's.
It'd be cool if it did a Google Lens thing where you could just take a picture of it.
Pretty much, I don't think there's an image recognition portion of it, but yeah, there's just a massive database of items, and you just keyword search like mattress
Or
Is it
scanning a
specific?
UPC would be cool.
yeah,
Is it specific to Cambridge? Like how
Yeah,
to
it's how
dispose of
it's-
it in Cambridge?
it's exactly. So
Okay.
it's like in Cambridge, how do you get rid of certain things like textiles? They do like a textile recycling program there, so
Yep.
if you put in anything that's textile related, it would say drop it off at one of these textile things, and if you like the location for that,
We could recycle textiles.
you can.
Okay. Anything else on this part in terms of getting somebody from Casella? I think that's a really great idea. It would be cool to have an app. I know apps are expensive to develop. So I was reached out to by a rep from a company called Blue Sky. Blue Sky, Elon Musk apparently, as divisive a name as that is, had a competition some time ago, I think it was a while ago, for startup companies that were reducing carbon pollution. And this Blue Sky company won. They have carbon sequestration technology that nobody else is using. Well, it's basically, there's two different types of technology, and they're the only company that's using them both together. Because they won, they got this, and this is again years ago, they got this big startup amount from Elon Musk or whatever. So since then, they've gone into contract with a bunch of different cities and corporations. And essentially what they do is they will come and set up a carbon sequestration facility using your solid waste. So they can take your garbage and use it to sequester carbon. So the number one way that that's usually done is biocharring, which is the way of making charcoal. Charcoal is made by biochar. The process of making charcoal takes carbon out of the atmosphere. if you then burn the charcoal, you're re-releasing the carbon, so don't do that. But the biocharing process is a carbon sequestration process. And I forget, they use another process to make it super efficient, which is why like other companies are not doing it completely, like they have like 70%, but they get really high levels of efficiency. And so anyway, they will come and they will set up, and they work with whoever they're contracting with, they'll set up a facility, and they'll use your solid waste to sequester carbon. And then in addition to, like, there's all these sources of revenue that produces. And so, for example, the biochar itself is often sold to farmers. It's used in filtration systems such as those that are used to clear PFAS out of water. So you can sell that biochar for those purposes, but also you can, for example, if Newfields wanted to have some of their stuff taken care of, they would pay us to do that. So that's my level of understanding. I would like the expert to be able to talk to the committee and explain what it is they do. But apparently, this creates revenues for the towns and companies that contract with them. So, and they can do it where they run and own the plant, or like the town does it. They're very flexible with how they do it. But I just wanted to put it out there to see if people would be interested in hearing what this company can offer us. I thought it was really interesting when he explained it to me. I clearly am not able to explain it the way he can, so.
I'm definitely interested in that.
And it would be I think it would help us reach our goals, because we could be technically, so if our goal is 100% renewable and carbon neutral energy, I want our energy generation to be truly carbon neutral. But if we're sequestering carbon, we could be offsetting our own carbon that we're still using right now. You see what I'm saying? If we're doing Clean 50, we can be offsetting, by sequestering carbon, we could be offsetting the carbon that we're creating by still doing Clean 50. So I think it's a way of getting to our goals of being carbon neutral.
October, November.
I asked him about doing it for next month, and he's going to be in Portugal at his daughter's wedding. So, how dare you? So October meeting. But let's do September meeting with Casella. And that'll, I think, run nicely.
October, November,
He may have to do a remote presentation, but I think because it's not like a voting member that's being remote, I think we can still legally do that. Yeah. We'll just, I'm sure our tech people will have a way to put them up there. Okay? Well, that's all I got. Anything else? Good, because we're way over time. This is unlike me. I tried to get us out in 1 hour. All right.
So I'm going to send Lindsay
Master plan
resolution,
stuff.
and I'm also going to send you a cookie note about the summer.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
And Ellen, you were going to send me a link to where you save the files?
Oh, yes, sorry. I don't have a pen on me. I need a pen.
I can send you an email to just ask
Yeah,
later.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That would be better. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then this meeting is adjourned, and I'll see y'all in good September.
How's that?
Yeah.
And you'll probably be an official member.
So I'll bug you, but